Good morning, Desert Hot Springs. Good morning. All right, it's Friday. It's Friday, May 31st, 2019. And I'll be here for a little while to go over some things that have recently come up and have gone on. And it's going to be a good show here today. So I'm gonna pull up a couple things here because last night I went to it was a storyteller's version of homelessness, and it was very interesting. Supervisor Manny Perez was there. I didn't speak to him. It was, let me see if I can pull up some of the pictures from last night. No, it's not that. That's something else. We'll get to that later. It was put on by partially by the Desert Sun. There's some photos in another article. Which one did I not do here? No, I did that one. It was the second one up. I sent myself some pictures here. Did that one, I think. Where is it? No. Is it the third one? There they are. Okay, so I went to and there's Manny Perez. He's in the aisle in front of me here with his I believe it's wife. So went there last night, and Jan Pye, council member Jan Pye, was there, and that came up because it was a while ago. I put out there that I asked them if I could be on the committee for homelessness, and this is going to lead me into a very broad discussion about this homelessness push to get people into homes at this point. And that leads to those pictures of that van. So there was a meeting the 29th, and I couldn't go to it. I had a family function 2 nights ago. They had a meeting at the Carl May Center about homelessness in Desert Hot Springs. And I'm going to be writing and putting together an article about that subject, because it was a big deal for me during the campaign. I pushed to deal with the homelessness. But what I'm finding out is that there are upper level echelons, which is exactly what Desert Hot Spring or Palm Springs is asking for. We're talking about this morning here. We're going to focus a lot on the homeless subject because it's being spread out everywhere right now. In the Coachella Valley, the radio stations are talking about it, and that's of no coincidence. That always is tied to some sort of larger agenda, some sort of larger goal, larger program going on that is always connected to cities after it's kind of handed and passed down to the cities. And Desert Hot Springs won't be any different. So Desert Hot Springs will be brought into the homeless debate based upon what higher and higher up entities will be feeding and trickling down to us. So when I got involved in that committee, just via email, I got an email from Councilmember Jan Pye that said she was going to be going to a storytellers event, not an event, but it was a storytellers, I guess you could say event. I think of event as a fun thing, but it's the subject matter was a little heavier because at least 2 of the speakers last night that spoke for about 15 minutes each, they cried. So the whole thing kicked off around 6:30. It was over by 7:30. I thought it was going to go on a little longer, but it seemed to be cut a little short. Each speaker may have had, and they ran through their story pretty quickly. But she mentioned she was going to be going to that, so I bought a ticket and I went down to hear them speak. And a couple other people from Desert Hot Springs were there. So the one thing, well, several things stood out, but one of the things that stood out was this writer here, Nicole Hayden, from the Desert Sun. She spoke first of her past from Michigan, from moving from Michigan out to the desert here recently, and she spoke about what got her interested in the homeless situation. And she seemed, I think the timing was that she's pretty young, so I think the timing was that she went off to college in Detroit right around 2008 when the recession hit, And it affected her on the streets of Detroit, the people who were homeless, and they were, you know, people who were losing their houses and all this stuff. So she obviously got pulled into the whole idea of activism for homeless early in her, you know, in her late teens, early 20s. So when she was moved to Desert Hot Springs, she moved to the Coachella Valley to work for the Desert Sun within the company that she said she worked for. She said that she started writing about homeless stuff and nobody would listen to her. But the main thing that stood out about what she said was that a year ago, a grant was given. There was a grant given to study the homeless situation. And whenever the news media carries out and reveals a new subject that for a long time has already been going on, but for some reason they're just right now picking that subject to run with it and do something about it, or move on it, or talk about it. It's usually timed with something bigger going on, and that's why I brought up to you one of the last times this PDF here, which is about 10 years ago, 2007, that talked about ending homelessness. And now we know homelessness is a problem, and I'm not saying it's not a problem, but what I want to get into is the sharing of a strong understanding that it doesn't just happen by some coincidence. They don't just say, we're out of stories, what do you want to cover? Let's just cover homelessness. There's usually a big move from larger groups to delve into that. And from what I can gather, what they're doing with the homelessness in Coachella Valley right now is they're trying to inventory who is homeless, who they are, what their patterns are. And I know that they won't be able to house all the homeless, because that was what I had in a picture over here from the email that I have, is that you have homeless people. I think this is probably a pretty good example. You have homeless people, and I'm not saying that this person is homeless, but you do find that homeless people, you do find there are homeless people who do not want to conform to a housing situation. So when you have groups like, you know, the United Nations pushing to end homelessness, because this picture here is of obviously a hoarder, and this person has a garage door opener on the top of their car. It's a garage door opener. There's a hose here. There's all kinds of junk all in the car. There's only the 2 seats open. I took another picture. I'll see if I can get that one to come up. That's the back, looking at the back of it. That's the side. And then the front, you have just the 2 seats are empty, and it's all full all in the back. So the reason I took this picture was because it was to show you that they don't have all homeless people looking to end homelessness. And that was one of the things I brought up in my campaign, was that, you know, every homeless person wants to live a little differently than all the other homeless people. So what I have for you here are a couple of links, and it's not that one, it's another one. I need to title my emails to better. Okay, here it is. So when you type in, when you do a search for the same keywords as this over here, in letter, Palm Springs officials say county fails in its responsibility to address homelessness. Now, a couple days ago, and I didn't have a show yesterday, I apologize for that. I had a long day. I had to get out early in the morning. I didn't come home till late. So when you do a search for county, you know, fails, let's say, let's look at it here. County fails to, where is it? Okay, county fails in its responsibility to address homelessness. So if you just do a basic search of that, county fails in its responsibility to address homelessness. Now, I left out the Palm Springs, because what I did was I left out Palm Springs and I wrote county fails responsibility to address homelessness. And when you do a search of that, you find Orange County. California's public system a failure, yet teachers demanding more. So the societal problem of pet homelessness. So you'll start to see that it's a talking point. You'll start to see that it's it's a description of homelessness that across the country. So 20 hours ago, Alabama legislature, Spencer was released homeless shelter. Let's see. When homeless patients leave the ER, where do they go? You ask me answers. Why is homelessness in the Coachella Valley? So the word fail comes up, the word badly. These are all articles from within the last year. So you see a giant media collaboration to address the homelessness all at the same time. Now with media being controlled and whittled down to about 5 major media corporations, you can have just about 250 people in one room, all the heads of the boards of all those media companies. You can have them all meeting in one room, and they can discuss the talking points and the agendas that are going to be coming up. There are countless videos of news media, the way that they'll describe the opening story of a night. Like they'll say, there's YouTube clips of it where they'll say, why is it this? And then the next person in Kansas, why is it this? So you'll see this. They say the same thing. So it's a fact that a lot of national mainstream news outlets will cover the same subject at the same time, or regionally. Like what I'm seeing is in California. I'm seeing in California the California. That was in another email here. The California news media is City of Pleasanton. No, that's not it. So what California media is a lot of them are at the same time are saying failing with homelessness. And we know that Governor Gavin Newsom a few months ago has put out something about homeless. So you can't look at it from the perspective of they want to end homelessness, because they will never end homelessness. They just won't do it. It just won't happen. They will do something to the homeless situation that will, what it will do is it'll feed business to certain government tied groups. And what they're aiming at here is housing. What they're saying is everyone's entitled to housing. So you can see the warm up to what's coming when it comes to the homelessness situation in the Coachella Valley. And recently in Desert Hot Springs, the city council was talking about building thousands of low-income homes. Now what they wanted to do was have Desert Hot Springs eat thousands of low-income homes, and Palm Springs only have to have a few hundred. And Councilmember Russell Betts even came out himself and said we think it's lopsided. Now I honestly think he's going to go with it. I think he's going to follow along and dutifully go with whatever he's told to kind of go with. But in the early point, he has to kind of show some resistance to it, because these commitments that Desert Hot Springs will, I believe, have to make to accept housing for low-income people and be, again, as we've been called in the past, the dumping ground for homeless and poor people and drug addicts and all that stuff. I believe that they're pushing towards building low-income housing throughout the Coachella Valley, and it's tied to a larger plan of, what do they call them, multi-family dwellings. So you've got the plan to build lots of homes, and that was in, I brought that up to Councilmember Russell Betts in a Facebook comment on the Desert Hot Springs Cruise-In, and it talked about how roads were going to be changed, and it's all on the city's website. It's the Vortex plan. So what they have is they have multi-family homes going in the downtown area, up and down Palm. They'll have it on the corner of Palm and Pearson. They're going to put in multi-family dwellings and all that stuff. And Councilmember Russell Betts said in a comment, he said, "Where'd you get that?" And I linked to where I got it, and then nothing. He just disappeared. He didn't even answer. He just poof, like nothing was said. It's bizarre. It's weird. So what I see this happening here further on out is the government private public partnership and deals that are going to come up with between the city and developers to build housing as and what they'll do is they'll use a sad story such as homelessness to carry that plan through. Now this is about making money. This is about making money and complying with a larger agenda being passed down. So if you have UN to federal to the state to county to city, it's passed. It's whittled down to the city level, but it comes from larger groups down. So what I see is the agenda of more home units in the downtown areas coming, and they're going to use the homelessness as a cover story to get those built. Now, this is going to take years to do this, but I see the push starting. I see them moving on it. I see them acting on the plan for a long time. Now, one of the articles I have here is from, let's see what it comes up as. UN.org, UnitedNations.org. And by the way, I just published a story about the UN having a say in our city plans. So UN expert on right to housing challenges government to end homelessness. So you have sustainable development, which is our trigger words that are scattered all through Desert Hot Springs planning documents. Sustainable housing, sustainable landscapes, sustainable sustainable lighting, sustainable water savings, all this stuff, sustainable power. So sustainable development is a United Nations plan, and these are their goals. So you see the UN expert on right to housing challenges governments to end homelessness. So the UN is challenging government by going through the federal, down through the state to the county to us to end homelessness. And what do we see in that Desert Sun? We'll see if it comes up here. There's the word to end. They want to end homelessness. They say it in these articles. And it's all you have to do is you have to branch out. So whatever program they're kind of running, just branch out further. Go into California, go into federal, go into global, and you'll see it's the same larger plan being passed down. And I don't want anyone to say that I don't want the homelessness problem addressed. My biggest issue I have, and this will continue to be my biggest issue, is this is not locally decided. This solution is decided by larger groups than us, but at the same time, they keep you in that visible spectrum of it's up to you. You're going to participate. You're going to be the one who's going to volunteer. And that's what that whole thing last night was about. The whole thing last night with all those images that I was showing that showed you Manny Perez there. Let's see if it's this one. I can't remember. No, it's not that one. Those are images from the article that was just posted. Yeah, okay, right here. We'll scroll through them. So there's Manny Perez and his wife there that were sitting to it and listening to it. And at the end of it, they said, we're looking for volunteers to help us with this. So they just omit a lot of information about this coming from a larger group, and they push it out there that this is through your participation that this will change. And to an extent they're right, but by omitting certain information, they're not giving you the full picture. And that again is my goal. My goal is to give you the larger picture of what's going on so you can understand that this is not a locally generated problem. This is not like the Coachella Valley, like Palm Springs saying, we're tired of the homelessness, we're going to go talk to the county. It's time. This plan now arrived on their desk, and they just have to pretend that it's just sprung up, right? So you have the speakers from last night. This is Nicole Hayden. She was the woman who wrote the Desert Hot Springs article about the homelessness. She's been pushing for a lot of stuff. I found that it was a lot of same players in this category in the media, kind of hugging, back patting each other. It was a big reunion for a lot of people in this, and to make a lot of money. I mean, this is going to be weeks to months to possibly years of them covering this problem of homelessness in the way they want to shape you to believe that it's going on, in the way they want to shape your mind into inserting you into a predetermined solution for the homelessness, which will never be a solution for the homelessness. Now, this man who spoke here, he, I believe his name was Rodriguez, Mr. Rodriguez. He said he works for Manny Perez, and he was the last speaker to speak, and that told me a lot right there. He said he works at Manny Perez's Riverside County Supervisor's office, and he was the guiding one last night, kind of like, not the guiding one, but he was one of the guiding people last night to get this word out there. And the room was full. I mean, it was full, almost full of people. So there were a lot of invitations for people to go there. I paid for a ticket. I'm not sure how many paid, but I'm sure some didn't pay. They were invited to go and listen. And I don't even know where the money went. I just can't go for free if they ask you to buy a ticket. I'll buy a ticket. I don't mind. So the homeless issue is going to be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed now. After years to decades of it not being dealt with, all of a sudden it's being pushed, and that's the big clue that it's time they're moving on it. It's time they're moving on it, and I believe it has to do with the cost of housing going up everywhere. It's really becoming noticeable that prices are exaggeratedly. You know, my neighbors are even saying it. They're saying my house is not worth as much as they're saying it's worth because it's too fast. It's overheating. So I don't know if it'll continue. It's going to be hard for it to drop much again. And it took 2008, which wiped out a lot of people's lives, to get it to drop quite a bit, but it came back, and it's past that again. It's moving higher and higher. So it will continue to increase. It may have some dips, but it'll go back up, and it'll climb. It'll continue to climb up and go higher and higher as far as cost of housing goes. So I think what they're doing is they're anticipating now is the time to move on the homeless issue in terms of getting properties built, which will be privately owned apartment buildings, things like that. And what they'll do is they'll build them, and then the builder will walk away from it, and there won't be any money built into it to pay for future services, fire, police, things like that. And there is a big push now for each of these multi-purpose, where they want to put shops in the bottom and housing up above. There's a big push now to have a certain percentage of that low income. So they want to blend together, and it probably will be the whole thing. Who knows? But if you have homeless people who can't afford to live in a home or an apartment now, how is it going to be that they're going to be able to afford a brand new apartment building? How is that going to happen? It's not about that. It's time for builders to have jobs to build, and this is deals. There's going to be a big push, and it's going to be heavily government subsidized to build all this housing. It's already been going on. It's been going on in a lot of areas, and that's why Governor Gavin Newsom was recently pointed out by Mayor Scott Mattis that he was suing Huntington Beach for not having enough of that housing. So if you basically don't comply with these larger agendas of ending homelessness, like this, UN expert on right to housing challenges government to end homelessness. And look at the image they put in this article. This is the UN. This is them. This is the visual that they want you to see. End homelessness means that. That's what it means. So end homelessness means big high rises of ghettos and all that stuff. You know, that's just where they're going. So saying human rights have been largely absent from discussions of urban development at a time when more than half the world's population lives in cities. The UN independent expert on adequate housing today challenged governments to end homelessness and improve living conditions for all. In quotes, I am convinced we can end the scourge of homelessness and improve living conditions for over 1 billion people worldwide. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for ending homelessness, which won't end it? Which means possibly boondoggles, buildings and structures built where the builder gets the money and then it's left empty, it's left alone. So who's going to pay for that? To put homeless people who don't have any money as it is into buildings, into homes. And let's see. Her report describes how urban centers are facing a future where vast inequities are growing, segregating those who have resources from those who do not. On its current path, urbanization is simply unsustainable. With the right to adequate housing as a pillar, the report notes, the human rights framework can provide a coherence and consistency sorely needed in the so-called New Urban Agenda to achieve sustainable, inclusive cities for all, a goal also of the just adopted Sustainable Development Goals. So they're telling you right here that they are writing the future of the country. And it's no mistake that they're using homeless to bring this in. It's no mistake. It's all it's a shell game. They'll divert your attention while the other thing, which has the ball under it, moves to another spot. So they, I would love to have Nicole Hayden on, and I think that I'm going to try. My phone line is coming very soon here, so we're going to have a phone line. And what I'd really like to do is, on these topics, I'd like to have them call in. Now, they're probably going to act like they don't know anything about it. They've never heard of it. That, no, this is, that I'm wrong. That this is all just springing up organically. I call it astroturfing. It's not grassroots. It's astroturf roots. So it's all out there, and it's easy to read. It's easy to find. UN.org Sustainable Development. And it's a longer link, but you can even just search this keyword here on your own PC. Sustainable Development Goals, UN Expert Right to Housing Challenges, Governments to End Homelessness. So some of the speakers last night about the homelessness were a young girl whose mom couldn't hold it together. She had drugs. She lost her mobile home that she was in, and she had to go into foster care, and then her mom and her ended up at a shelter that I've never heard of. They mentioned a shelter last night that I've never heard of. I think it was in Hemet or something like that. There was a woman who was part of the encampment up on, I think it was Route 68. She spoke last night. And the interesting thing about that meeting last night was that our choices are given to us. They give you choices about what to have as a cause. What is the project that you are being asked to be part of, to be a volunteer in? And a couple of years ago, they didn't have these talks about this homelessness. So all of a sudden, they're filling a room with people who are interested in hearing about hearing the homeless talk. Now, that comes because they feed people their causes. Okay, and then you go to another step past that, and you see that people are easily fed a cause. People are always looking for a cause. So if they made up a cause tomorrow of thumbtacks in the road, found in the road, people would be holding signs protesting thumbtacks in the road when they didn't even know anything about it, didn't even think about it a couple of years ago. All of a sudden, it's if large groups say, we need your help, there are people that will run in and say, I will volunteer to help end thumbtacks in the road. And when you see a room full of people that are there and they're clapping and they're applauding and they're affected by some of the tears that some of the former homeless were sharing on stage, you see that the people are very pliable. You can shape them into the powers that be can shape them into activists towards homelessness. The powers that be can shape them into activists towards endangered species. The powers that be can shape people into being activists towards light bulbs being bad for the planet, whatever, or harmed animals, homeless animals, or homeless people. They have the power to set forth an agenda that in the end is going to serve them, but all the way through, it's got a nice cover story, but it gets the involvement, it gets people to volunteer to help build it. And I'm here again, not to say that homelessness is not a problem, not to say that homelessness is good. I'm here to show you that it's not being directed by the people who are asking you to help. It's being directed by people way above that. And it's all set forth plans and agendas and goals. They say the word agenda in here. So you have to do some research to understand this more fully, because if you don't do the research and you just willingly go along with this, you are being used. Whether it's for a good cause or not, if you don't know the whole story about what you're being asked and you're volunteering your time to build, you look kind of silly, because if they feed you things that are limited in the spectrum, and there's more to it up here, more to it below there, they feed you only that visible line, you kind of look like you believe Santa Claus is real. And I hate to put it like that, but that's just the truth. If you only think that presents come from, some guy in a suit Christmas morning, you look kind of foolish, because there's more to it. There's your parents wrapping them. There's your parents making the plate of cookies. There's your parents eating the carrots, okay? It's not real. So you have to understand way above and way below that line that they're feeding you, that visible line. And, a lot of people will like to say conspiracy. To make money? It's not a conspiracy. They're not harming people. If they said last night at the speech that Renovo Solar is giving away free solar-powered phone chargers to the homeless. Thousands of them are going out. And, that's not a conspiracy. A conspiracy is two or more people involved in something that's going to harm or hurt other people. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding the larger agendas to make money and to shift societies a certain way that they want them to go. Whether you want to or not, or whether you'll be pulled into it or not, doesn't matter. There's a larger agenda going on, and it's to your advantage to understand the larger agenda above and below, not just take the visible spectrum that they're feeding you and just take that as that's all there is to it. So we'll move on to, there's an article on newsanddhs.com. It was just posted this morning. It's titled, Local Businesses in Desert Hot Springs Increasingly Pressured to Submit to United Nations Plan. Now, that the United Nations is coming up quite a bit now. It's been going on for a long time. But one of the things I recently noticed was that the lights that surround the top of the Miracle Springs Spa and Resort, the colorful neon bead that they used to have go around the building, that's off now. It's dark. So in this photograph here in the article on newsanddhs.com, you'll see that those lights are off, but if you go further down, the spa, that's all LED strips. And that's been replaced. That used to be probably neon that filled it, and they had a plastic cover over the top, so you'd see the light shining through the panel behind it. And it's possible that all through here, these are all LED tubes, LED strips that have been fitted into the fluorescent fixtures. So the ballasts have been changed, the bulbs have been changed. So they're feeding LED lighting through behind there. So what I have in this article is, if you read through it, it says, and this is by the way, this is what an LED close sign. They have the same thing in open. It's got like a circle around it that says open. You'll see that on drugstores. You'll see that on pawn shops. The city has come around, and the city of Desert Hot Springs has come around, and they've told the businesses that they have to comply at some point with these changes, and it's through their energy usage, through Edison and all this stuff. It relieves them from responsibility, but it all leads back to, again, the same thing, the sustainability goals. And what you find is Desert Hot Springs has a document. It's on their webpage. It's called a Climate Action Plan for Desert Hot Springs. If you link to it, there's a link to it here. The city of Desert Hot Springs has folded to the pressure, and what the link does is it shows that, it's called the DHS Climate Action Plan. It's loading. So what you see is a lot of the same talking points about sustainability goals when it comes to energy usage and lighting is all in our document. And what's even more strange is that if you go to other cities, you'll see it's the same thing. It's weird. Because let me see if it's over here. That's coming up. Oh, there we go. Okay, it came up. So if you go down the document, you'll see that they have climate action plan. They call it the CAP. So here's the top of it. Initial study, negative. So you have, let me go to the top. Notice of intent to adopt a negative declaration, City of Desert Hot Springs Climate Action Plan. Now I believe this is from 2010. And there's our city clerk, Gerald Soriano. So climate, okay, June 2013. So years ago, they adopted a climate action plan. And in that climate action plan, you see plans for small businesses. Now, I made friends with several small businesses when I ran for mayor. And one of them, he himself, for the last year and a half, he said the city's been coming down on him, saying he has to get rid of his neon signs out front that say, you know, whatever, open or whatever, and replace them with LED lights. Now, that's at the cost of the business owner, the private business owner. Now, he's being told what to do by the city, saying, you know, his energy levels are too high, his energy usage is too high, it's now a city ordinance, they have to enforce it, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the reasons are, the businesses find that they're backed up against a wall and they have to, you know, comply, or else, you know, they fear that they're going to face some sort of retribution from the city. Will they come after the business license? You know, they don't want any trouble, so they comply with it when there's no jurisdiction for this. And it's non-binding, it's things like that, but it doesn't matter. Private businesses are pushed to behave in a way that is opposite of what they built up. They have the lights, they have it, they're fine with their electric bill, but they're making them buy new lights and put them up. So when you read through this, you find that it's several pages long, but what it gets down to further down is the strategies that they're going to enforce to get this done. Now it talks about wastewater, it talks about how new development's going to have to be in the future, they're going to have to capture their gray water, and they're going to have to, they're already talking about making businesses take their water and feed it back into the aquifer. So we have, sorry, the dog's barking. I'm going to get down here. So you have savings where we live. So you have cross-cutting initiatives, Save a Ton campaign, Save a Ton campaign unlocking energy, color, and carbon savings in 30% of housing stock. So you have water efficient landscape ordinance, build and exceed current water efficient landscape ordinance in the residential sector by 15% community-wide by 2020. So that's like desertscape, that's drought tolerant landscapes. So we've been hearing these things coming, we've been seeing them coming for over a decade now at least. And the city adopted it in 2013, but it was written and developed by larger groups well before that. So the city of Desert Hot Springs takes this on and looks like it's trying to, you know, have its residents be water wise. You see that around energy wise, energy smart. But if you keep going further back, you find that it's a lot of the sustainable development goals from the United Nations. So it's larger groups that dictate to smaller and smaller groups, as I keep saying to you, where the future is headed. And I'm not against saving water. We all conserve in some way. What I'm against are them telling you this is your choice and this is you deciding your future, while you can easily find that this is passed down from global government types. Groups that are of a global mind that hand down initiatives, and they whittle their way, they find their way to the local communities that cost you money as a small business person, that cost you more money as a consumer, because the small business who has to buy those new lights, he's going to pass his costs on to you. He's not going to eat those costs eventually. He's going to raise is stuff by 10, 15 cents, $1, $2, $3. Stuff is going to go up in price at the register to cover all these changes. So don't stay in that limited spectrum of what they tell you is going on, which is it's more energy efficient, because as you'll read in the article. And before I go out of this, because it was hard for it to pull up. I mean, they're talking about going into pool pumps, promote high efficiency variable speed pool pumps to households. I know those are already out there, but this is 2013. The city decided they were going to be, having a role in your appliances. Peak demand reduction. Partner with SCE to provide local promotion of residential summer discount programs to cut peak demand. And this is where I'll go in while I finish this link up and go back to newsandhs.com. Is if you read through this, you realize they're going to have their hand in a lot of stuff in your life. Water efficient landscaping we talked about. Gray water ready ordinance. Require all new residential development to be constructed for easy implementation of gray water systems that redirect water from wash basins, showers, and tubs. So they want to capture all that gray water out of houses. That's all going to increase the cost of housing, because they're going to have to put in 2 sets of drain lines. One's going to have to go to the sewer for black water, and the other one's going to have to go to some sort of catch basin. So it's all going to make the cost of houses go up. They're never going to stop. They're going to keep on you from here on out eternity if you let them. They're just going to keep pecking away at you. Landscaper certification. Require 100% of licensed landscapers to be water efficient and drought tolerant plant certified. Plan checking and permitting. Expedite plan check process and reduce permit fees by 50% for energy efficiency measures. So if you cave and you fold into the energy efficiency measures, you get a discount on your stuff at the planning department. Energy efficient lighting. Purchase approximately 2,000 compact fluorescent lamps and LEDs for giveaways to demonstrate their value in homes and leverage 10 times the number in household and business applications. So there's that narrow visible spectrum line. When in reality, look at the cost on the nation, on the world, to move into areas where rare earth minerals that are needed for these computer chips, for these LED boards. Look at where that comes from. It comes from different parts. May come from Africa, it may come from the Middle East. It comes from areas where just so happens we went to war with. So that we occupy those areas now, and China will move in, and China will mine for those minerals, make the LED lights, and ship them back to us. So you can see a larger goal and how it all kind of ties together. You'll see it's business minded, and again, that's what I have to keep saying to you. I'm not against energy efficient lighting. What I'm against is them only telling you a narrow view of everything when there's so much more going on above and below. Peak demand reduction, household efficiency audits, residential PACE, partner and aggressively promote residential PACE program to reach 25% of homes with properly secured funding from 100% of the cost, energy upgrades and renewable energy systems, on-bill finance payments, solar champion, solid waste diversion, increase solid waste diversion rate by 5% to 68.1% by 2015, potentially through use of tiered rate structure. Solid waste diversion, commercial energy audits, peak demand reduction, collaborate with SCE and encourage 100 businesses to, this is in Desert Hot Springs, collaborate with SCE and encourage 100 businesses to enroll in energy efficiency and demand response programs such as summer discount program. Energy efficiency commercial sector lighting, promote and leverage existing incentives for efficient lighting and educate and locally incent building owners to eliminate any remaining T12 lamps in commercial and industrial buildings. The Temperature Club, promote community partnership through policies to adjust indoor temperatures to save degree reaching out to 100 businesses. Now you get the picture that it's everything. It's lighting, it's thermostats, it's roofing. They want to tell you what kind of roof you can have on your commercial business and commercial building. And what you can easily do, and this is why I'm going to get off of this. They got sustainable parking lots, new and efficient construction, cool roofs, green building program, green building support services, shade trees. They want to decide for you what trees you have in the parking lot. So when you leave that and you go back to, let's go back to the email over here. So over here we have an email that I sent to myself, and right here. Okay. City of Pleasanton. Now, if you kept going through that City of Desert Hot Springs plan, climate action plan, you'll find that it's the same terminology. Here's the City of Pleasanton. Okay, it's just an example. It's hours from here, and the City of Pleasanton, what they have is, let me see if I can find it for you down here. It's written very similar, and by the way, it's written by people like Martin Magana. You know, he was part of Desert Hot Springs, and he's now part of, I believe it's CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Governments, and Martin Magana was getting paid a lot of money from nonprofits while he was writing and putting together a lot of the same stuff in the city during the 2010, 2013 period, somewhere in there. I may not have his exact dates right. So if you go to the Pleasanton link here, cityofpleasanton.gov, this is all mixed use, new development, local. You'll see that they have the same things. They have energy efficient lighting, they have the permeable parking lots, they have the cool roofs, they have encourage buses, encourage public transit by the city. This is all what the city wants to push on its own residents. So it's like a standardized plan that's placed over each city, but it's slightly modified to be about that one city. Like some cities, if you look in some cities' climate action plan kind of thing, you'll see that it deals with snowpack because they're near a mountain resort or something like that. So it talks about how they can contain it. But the businesses with the LED lighting, you know, get rid of your incandescent, get rid of your fluorescent, get rid of your neon lights. It's all in every single one of them. It's all the same thing. So you can see that it was centrally written by a larger group above all these cities. So is that state? Is that federal guidelines? And then if you go above those, you can always lead back to the Sustainable Development UN goals, which is what was written in 1992. All that began. So you see a continual leveraging of small businesses, which eventually pass the costs on to consumers. You see a continual push to apply pressure to small businesses, and they always use a simple cover story of like, well, it'll save you energy, you know, save you energy. That's all. Well, who writes this? Well, we don't want to talk about that. It's going to save you energy. That's all you really want to. I mean, listen to any sales pitch from these people that come to your door asking you to get solar. Listen to any of them. They all have the same sales pitch. It's going to reduce your bills and blah, blah, blah. They don't talk about where the minerals come from to make the solar panels. They don't talk about the countries that were invaded to have access to those rare earth minerals. I'm not saying war is bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a larger thing going on above and a larger thing going on below. And it's easier to just listen to them, but again, I'm telling you that if you're just listening and believing to what the visible light spectrum they're telling you, you're foolish. You're a fool. They're going to come after you, and you're going to end up paying for it. At least if you know what the goal is and what the agendas are, you can modify your life around it. And that's what they don't want. They don't want people like me coming on and talking about how ways we can get around being sucked into these boondoggles, into these plan to end homelessness. You'll never end it. There will be people who will come near a building that they'll say, okay, here's your new apartment you're gonna live in. They'll go in, they'll take a look around, they'll walk right out front, and they'll defecate on the sidewalk. And then how many man hours is it going to take to rehabilitate people like that? Some people are just won't do it. You put them in, they're gonna tear the building apart. Their drugs are gonna cause them to rip out the appliances and throw them out the window. Okay, you can't put all homeless people into homes. You can't do it. So right off the bat, it's null and void the way they've written it, because it will never happen that way. So you have to discredit it immensely in the beginning, because it's false leading at the very start. And I'm hoping that eventually I can have Nicole Hayden on to be able to discuss this with her, and not aggressively. I don't want people to feel like they can't come back. So I have my opinions now, and this is what I'm sharing with you. But if I have people on, I'm not going to press them, because I don't want the conflict. But I have the opportunity now to tell you how I really feel about it. And then if they're on, I'll let them speak their mind. But I'm not gonna make it awkward. So that's where we're at today. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the world. There's tariff issues going on with. Let's see what we got here. We'll type in Yahoo News. We've got Mexico sending diplomats to the U.S. to talk about what's happening. I guess Trump is that's not on this top one here. It's heating up some of the and what the Trump hating news is saying is that it's going to raise the cost of everything you've got, whereas and that's that visible line. That's a narrow band they want to keep you in, the narrow band, which is that any tariffs that the United States imposes on China are bad, when in reality China has been extremely lopsided. China has received huge breaks to ship goods here, whereas if you produced anything here that you wanted to send and sell in China, you had to pay enormous tariffs. So coming in from China was almost nothing. Going out to China was huge. So that forced businesses to make in China and send here, which means that in China, if you have factories in China, they're partially owned by the Chinese government. The Chinese government wants a majority ownership. They may be 51%, but they can ultimately decide if your business leaves that country. So it was all angled over the last several decades to build that uneven playing field, where the U.S. was always running uphill and they were running downhill. So what they're calling it is Trump unleashes tariffs to stop illegals and drugs. So that's that multi-dimensional activity where you can apply pressure. Like if I took this pen and I had something sitting on this end of the pen, if I push down over here, you think I'm attacking this end over here, but actually this one is rising because it's leverage. I'm applying pressure to one end and it's causing the other end to be affected also. So when you have things going on in the world, you can't look at it on the one narrow band, which is what they want you to see. You have to see the stuff going on above and stuff going on below. Because that's really truly being free. It's when your mind is free and it's not captive by the powers that be that want you to only think in that narrow band or see in that narrow band. Then you're truly free. You can really start to think. And first thing you have to do is you have to know that nothing happens by coincidence when it comes to government or media. It's not happenstance. It's the timing. It's timed to come up. It's time to happen. Timed to happen when it happens. So, been busy lately. I'm committed to come on Sunday. So I'm going to have a series is going to happen on Sunday this week, and I'll reveal who the guest was if the guest wants. Is just the cause. It's going to be a good week, and I'm trying to get another one on Saturday, that's Sunday, and pretty much for Friday, the 31st of May, 20. Look at the so I'm gonna store of the videos that I'm making here. The more I put them into putting them into articles, and I'm going to be posting just the topic. So in the morning, but I'll find another one will be about this, and I'll add. So it's time. This is easy to do. Anyone can do it. You should do your own. We need more of what's going on in our community. Being fed. You can please just go on capital N Desert Hot Springs. This video in Desert Hot Springs' YouTube channel. A lot of interesting in there. Christmas parade. I covered the Christmas carnival.